What a day for a daydream, custom made for a daydreaming boy. Hey, it is your daydreaming boy, Tom Patrick McAuliffe, fresh from the Night Patrol, author extraordinaire, winner of 11 awards so far, and a creator of 33 books over the past 5 years, books, ebooks, and audiobooks. Come check me out at www.authortommcauliffe.com. Right at the bottom. That's our publishing company, by the way, Next Stop Paradise Publishing. And thank you for stopping by Uncle Tom's Cabin. Fire's all warmed up. I always do that. Fire's always warmed up back there. Your cabin is waiting for you. And the leaves are starting to turn here. It's fall and in Michigan and elsewhere in the Northland. So we've got another special show for you. This is episode 16 now. They said it would not last. And we're all about books and music from a reader's perspective. But if you're an aspiring author and need some help or have some questions, we can do that too. Email me at bookinfo@nextstopparadise.com, especially if you know of anybody who's got a book they want to talk about, or maybe a CD that they love and they've discovered. And if you're an author and you've got a book to talk about, please get in touch. It's free. And our audience is growing. We're going to run ads here. And I want to say we had 107 people tune in to one of our first broadcasts. I think that was the one with Donovan Neal from agentivpress.com. Or maybe it was with Ann McNichol, the author of the 4-book series about talking octopuses. I love that. So we've got some more great guests coming up. Who we got coming up? We have got the Mistress of Horror, D.L. Hughley, is supposed to be stopping by around the Halloween time. That's exciting. A new author by the name of Thad Tinney. He writes about motorsports and good people. One of my first books, or my very first book, actually, Mr. Mulligan, The Life of Champion Armless Golfer Tommy McAuliffe, is doing very, very well. And in fact, we're thinking of making it into a major motion picture. That's very exciting. This week, we're going to talk about what's happening in the book market and the top 10 books, New York Times, USA Today, Drafted Digital, Barnes and Noble. We conglomerate all those lists together and come up with a top 10 list. We're going to do that for music too. Oh, and by the way, we started adding audiobooks. More and more people tell me that they're buying audiobooks, if for no other reason than during their commute. Instead of listening to the radio with all those commercials, they can actually, be entertained with a great fiction book, or learn some stuff with a nonfiction book. So audiobooks are really, really popular these days. All of my books, the books of author Tom McAuliffe, are on Apple audiobooks exclusively over the next year. And that's basically all of them. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 that are lagging and haven't been done yet, but and that's all with the new AI audio voice algorithm. They have really gotten close to perfecting using computers to produce the human voice. Getting the inflections down now. And it's not just a monotonous tone where they're saying one word of it after another. No, it's up and down, and they really, I've been very impressed. And you can get it now in, I want to say, 5 different voices. There's American male and female, there's British male and female, and then there's like a Hispanic version, if I'm not mistaken. So Apple audiobooks, check it out. They're only like I think they're marked down on sale. And I'll tell you something else. We're gonna have a nice big fall sale. A nice big fall sale on our books coming in October. So stick around for that. Um, and we've shown you some of the cool promos that have been put together about some of the books. We played the one for you, and you can get those in the playlist too, by the way. They're almost like a motion picture one. I just need that guy with the gravelly voice, to do the voiceover. But yeah, one for Atlantis. They're still here. And then the second one we played last week for Kill or Be Killed, the Amsterdam affair. That was like a 007 type feel to that. And this week, we're going to be playing a all-encompassing promo, a little 60-second video that talks about all of my different books. So let's take a look at that right now.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I'm
tonight.
super psyched about having my next guest on the show. He comes all the way from the United Kingdom. And he is a British Academy Award winning animator, author, and teacher. Tony White has studied and worked with some of the biggest names in the history of animation. And we're talking about real animation, traditional hand drawn animation, which he's going to talk about. He apprenticed with three-time Oscar winner Richard Williams and has studied with some of the greats from Disney, Warner Brothers, and I'm excited to welcome to the show Mr. Tony White.
Thank you, Tom. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to talk about what I do. And actually, the thing about America, and there are many good things about America, but a bad thing about America is one time it led the world in hand-drawn animation. You know, Disney, Warner Brothers, all the
Hanna
other things.
Barbera. Hanna Barbera,
Yeah.
right? That's one of my
And
favorites.
it's not even in the game anymore. And I came here to do it back in '98. And within a few years, everything closed down. Disney, the CEO Michael Eisner of Disney, decided to close down the hand-drawn animation division, that great legacy that Walt left us. He got rid of it, and everyone else in the industry said, "Well, if Disney are not doing it, we're not." And I had investors lined up to make movies, to set up a studio here in the Pacific Northwest. They all fled for the hills, and nothing I could do.
And
So,
so let me make sure I understand this. So the hand drawn animators went away and it was replaced by computer based animation?
yeah, it kind of coincided at the same time. It was very shameful what Michael Eisner did because everyone was up in arms about it. They weren't losing money. Um, the word I got was that he particularly didn't like hand-drawn animation. He just didn't like it. And he was branching Disney out into all other areas for television and all kinds of things. And I can't speak for the boardroom level stuff,
Right.
but from a passionate lover of the traditional art form, it meant the end of America in the game anymore. And it's still heartbreaking to me because I think there's so much talent here, but no opportunity. Hollywood, yes, as you said, transitioned at that time, and it was more of a coincidence, I think, than a strategy. And they transitioned, and then Toy Story came out, and and the rest is history, as they say. And of course, now we got generative AI, which is even more
That,
scary in terms of my position on the matter of animation.
yes, and that was going to be kind of my next question. And before I
Oh,
get there, let me just ask you this: do you want some s'mores? Because we're gonna make s'mores by the campfire.
oh
Later.
yeah,
So,
sure. It's
okay,
looking very welcoming,
I'll,
and the
I'll,
flight, the
I'll set that up for you. Um,
just warm my
so,
hands on it.
as you can see, I live a very rich fantasy life. Uh,
Yes, I can. Well, this is my world behind me. That's my studio. That's my studio in my upstairs
Well, and I
room.
noticed the big computer there. So that's kind
Oh,
of be my next question is you mentioned AI. And how is AI affecting the Illustrator business?
well, Illustrator, animation, music, writing, writing. It's affecting everything, everything in the creative fields. And I'm not against AI if it's controlled, but in the creative field, the controls are just non-existent. And so what's happening is they're scraping these big companies are scraping everyone's art, everyone's writing, everyone's music, and everything, and they're regurgitating it so that anyone that wants to click on a button, give a few words, word engineers, they type it in, out pops this stuff, and people, money men. The money men at the top, they say, hey, if we don't need people and we can do it instantly, let's all
If
do
we
it.
if
And
we
so
don't
what you're going to
need
get
people,
is very much,
boy, you hit
sorry,
the nail right on the head right there. If we
yeah,
don't
absolutely.
need people.
But, and this is my head talking and my heart talking, I really believe the people that matter know the difference. And I really think that, yes, it's gonna capture a whole chunk of the creative markets
I I
for what it
I
does.
I go back as far as R. Crumb and
Oh
Zap
yeah,
Comics, you know.
yeah,
I've always thought that you guys it looks much more organic. You know, I love
yeah.
I don't get me wrong, I love the Incredibles, Toy Story, all that good stuff and stuff like that. But give me, give me some R. Crumb comics, some Zap comics to read. I'm a pretty happy camper. Uh,
Yeah.
Now let me ask you, you're doing, I know you're doing a lot of instructing work as a professor in the local university system or whatever, but
Yeah.
do you've got, and I want to talk about your books, but are you doing any illustrative work for other authors?
No, funny enough, do you know the weird thing is, it's not that I didn't want to do it. I teach because I have to, because as I said, when Disney closed down the studio, I had to think of what plan B was going to be because I sold up everything to come over here to make movies. That's what I love to do, and I got interest from investors and everything. And then, as I said, it all died overnight. So I thought, okay, what's plan B?
Okay,
And
so
I didn't really have one, but it ended up to be teaching. Yeah.
you're in Washington now.
I'm in Washington. Yeah, I came here. Washington State. I'm
Washington
in
State.
Seattle,
So
and
if
I
somebody
pretty
wants to
much.
take one of your courses, where can they go?
Well, they're online. I've got a student. In fact, I got a class tonight with a student in China. So they're all over the place. With the beauty of the internet is that it's so versatile. You can reach out. There are small disadvantages because the best way to learn my kind of animation is to sit at the shoulder of a master animator and work with them and learn from them as an
Uh,
apprentice. And that's what I did, and it was the best way of learning. But we don't have that anymore. So now I try to emulate and recreate that kind of learning experience, but it has to be done virtually, but by
if
the internet. But yeah, I have Tuesday night live class that's going at the moment, a Thursday night mentoring class, and I'm working, do a community college thing. And it pays the bills for me to do what I love doing, which is animating my own things.
and where can they find more information about that?
Yeah, my online school is called the 2dacademy.com. It's a number 2dacademy.com. And pretty much I'm wrapping up, it's a 4 module program, and basically people come in knowing nothing and they go out having made a little film.
That's me, knowing nothing. I'm
Yeah,
signing up. That's
yeah. But it's 48 weeks and it doesn't overlap. It's like we get to the end of the 4th module 48 weeks later, and then I'll take in a new collection of students to do
and,
that. Now
and
I do
Tony,
private tutoring, but
and Tony, give me the web address one more time.
2D Academy. It's number 2D Academy, all one word, 2D Academy, one word, .com.
Now, for your books, there's TonyWhiteBooks.com, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, are your books also on Amazon Kindle and
Oh yeah, you can go to. I've even got an author's page there. I've got masses of books of all kinds. Primarily my animation books, not all, but primarily they're with Taylor and Francis mainstream publisher. My big one, my latest one, Animation Masterclasses. It's about 800 pages thick. It's like the ultimate book on animation, as far as I'm concerned. And that's with Taylor and Francis. That's very much an Amazon thing, but I publish my own books, little tutorial books, little other interest books that I have,
I
and
want
they
to
can
talk
all
about
be
those.
found. Well, they can all be found on TonyWhiteBooks.com. Yeah.
And so I see I'm looking at on the site right now. I see Animation Me, kind of like an
Yep.
illustrative memoir. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've so far published two memoirs. I'm planning four eventually, but I got caught up in things this year. But yeah, Animation Me is basically my life, and it's quite an amazing life journey. It's not me being amazing. The journey's been amazing, and I just had the luck, the unique luck of being in the right place at the right time and being taught, especially in my early days, by some of the greatest animations ever, as you said at the beginning, including Richard Williams, who's an amazing, he's the late Richard Williams now, but was an amazing genius. And his obsession was learning from the greats, the really greats, the nine old men of Disney, back in the 30s to the 60s, those great men. He studied with them, and then he passed that knowledge to me because I was his apprentice for 18 months and then a director animator at the studio in London. And one of the things I created, which is the best things in my life, I did the title sequence for the Pink Panther Strikes Again movie.
Oh, one of my favorites. Well, you
Yeah,
can't
I
see
loved
it.
it.
You can't see it, but in that cabin over there, there's a
Uh-huh.
Hanna-Barbera, what do you call it? A cellulite? It's where they
A
drew
cell. Yes, celluloid.
yes,
Celluloid.
celluloid
Yeah.
of Woody the
Yeah.
Woodpecker,
Yeah. Oh, wow.
signed by one of the guys, Stan something or other, and that's
Yeah.
framed over there. And I was a big fan of Hanna-Barbera and the Flintstones and
Yeah.
all those old.
Well, the director of animation at Hanna-Barbera was a guy called Art Babbitt at one period of time. And Art Babbitt was one of the great Disney animators before that. And they talk about the famous nine old men of Disney animation. Well, Art Babbitt was the 10th. And the reason he's never quoted, or he was never quoted in the history of Disney, is that he led the strike in Hollywood that got Walt very upset. And they basically got rid of Art and wrote him out of the history. But he profiled all the major, like Goofy and all the major characters. He animated two sequences, or the mushroom dance in Fantasia, that was his.
Yes. Wow.
And the big what was his name? Geppetto in Pinocchio, the big Italian guy.
Sure.
That was art animation, but he was written out of history because he led the strike and they didn't like that.
You know,
But he went to Hanna-Barbera and became the head of Hanna-Barbera
I
animation.
love Walt Disney, but some stories have come out over the years that and of course he went through the real record, getting his first what was it, Waldo the rabbit or something like that, got stolen
Yeah,
from him before he invented Mickey
yeah,
Mouse, and
yeah.
I read
On,
his.
on a Yeah, I didn't know, obviously, I didn't know him personally, but I know people who did, and I studied with people who worked with him. And a lot of the rumors about him are not true. Um, but I don't know behind the scenes what could be true. I don't know. But all I know is he was a genius. And if
Yes,
it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have an industry. He even invented a thing called the storyboard. And if you've heard the storyboard, they didn't exist before Walt. And every movie,
really.
every video, even books and websites now have storyboards. It's standard production process before
Yes,
you do the production. You do visual storytelling of the script. And Walt invented that. Nobody knows that, but Hollywood owes him so much. And to me, he was a great genius.
I'm,
And
I'm
and
just
some of that
noticing.
work is
Go ahead.
Sorry, some of that work has never been replicated. And with all our computers and now all our technology, we still cannot do it. And we owe so much to that man. Personally, his private life, I have no knowledge.
Who
But what he
cares?
did for the industry and the art form, it was amazing.
Exactly. I don't care about his personal life. I just care about what all the love he created, all the wonderful memories I have of
Oh,
things
yeah.
watching him. I'm just noticing your shirt. Show us
Yep.
your shirt. That's
It's
great.
for
That's one.
It's basically my symbol for the 2D Academy because I'm 110% hand-drawn animating guy. I will die holding a pencil, and I'll always it and the interesting thing, Tom, is that I run these classes with total expectation that none of my students will ever do hand-drawn animation. They never will. But I believe, firmly believe that by learning, by drawing it, even if they don't draw very well, by learning it through drawing, it sinks into the muscle memory and the brain cells and the brain eye hand coordination. So when they get to computers, they're going to be so much smarter at movement and understanding things in animation than the guys who just push buttons on computers. And
You'll
there's
be
many
like
of
that
those.
guy. What's his name? Bob Vila or something. The painting guy. Make friends with a tree.
Oh,
Make,
Bob, I haven't got the afro though.
I got that covered for you.
Okay.
Let me ask you this: a couple of quick questions. Um, you also are an author.
Yeah,
Um, a short, tall story, for example,
yeah.
Astrological Me, Star
Short
Tunes. Way
story.
back. You've got how many books total?
I haven't counted them. I'm not up to you yet, but I think there's at least 12. Well, I've got some little books, little coloring books for kids, and there's a series of 12 of those little ones. And then I've got a big bumper edition of it. They're called Star Tunes, and there's a bumper edition which is all in color.
But there
But
are some.
publishing full color books are hard. That it's prohibitive to sell them. Um,
There are some for kids
yeah, yeah,
and
little
some for
kids.
adults.
Yeah.
Do you find which do you find more rewarding, being a writer or being an artist?
I think, in all honesty, being an animator, I would do animation all the time if I could for money. But I do it for myself now. So I love it and I don't get paid for it, but I love it and I still do it. I like writing when I have something to say. I don't really like write, and I don't really write fiction books. My new project's fiction, but I don't really write. I'm a teacher by heart. I'm
I
an,
can
a
tell that.
craftsman by
You have the heart of a
profession
teacher. I can tell that.
and a
Yep.
teacher, and I put the two together and do that. And occasionally I do have like the short told stories, a little short story for kids, which just popped into my head. And I actually wrote it many decades ago for my kids when they were little. And I wrote the story in it. And I could never get it published back then, and it's only more recently it got published. And so I do write stories, but it's mainly textbook or books that I think teach people things that help.
I just um I just had a recollection from back when I was a kid
Uh-huh.
and learned how to do the
Flip books.
yes,
Yeah.
where I made the guy walk to the edge of the diving board and then bounce a couple of times, then
Yeah.
dive in
Yeah.
and do it all with yeah, yeah.
Most of us kids, when we were bored in the classroom, should we dare say it, we used to draw little stick men in the corner of our book in our textbooks at school and flick them when the class was boring. And us artist types probably did it more than the others,
And
but
part of me
yeah.
thinks that today's kids are missing something by not
I
having those
I I
experiences.
I absolutely think that's true. And it's not just me as an old guy saying, "Oh, in my day we used to do." It's not that. The human body has certain muscles and certain perceptions and certain things that work better when you train the brain, you train the eye, and you train it through the hand. That's why I say hand-drawn animation. If you're learning animation, best learn it hand-drawn because you'll never forget it. It's like riding a bike. You never forget it once you get through that.
I, I,
Um,
I,
and tactile skills, that's what our bodies are made for. Our brains develop by touching things and feeling things and doing things with our hands. And that's what's missing, other than tapping on a computer or playing a video game. But and I hate all the new AI books that come out for kids, right? And they say, oh, you can write a kid's book in 20 seconds, or 2 minutes or an hour, whatever it is. And you look at them and they're plastic. There's no encouragement for a kid to use their imagination. And if you unleash a kid with a pencil and paper and coloring crayons and everything, you see what they create. It's 10 times better than these AI generated books. 10 times better. Now, eventually, some people will come out of that technology that have something to say, but 99% of it, I guarantee it'll all look the same, it'll all sound the same, and people will be bored with it.
do you think that authors who use generative AI should be required to disclose that?
I think there are actually websites now that can detect that. And I think they need to at schools as well because kids do their homework with AI and everything. Um, I heard I listened to the BBC radio a lot, and I heard they did a research thing about writers. Funny enough, and they said they took this batch of writers, and they're not famous writers, but just writers of all kinds, and they split them in two, and they got half of them to write something traditionally, using their imagination, and they took another bunch and gave them AI tools. Then they took everything they created and handed it out to a test audience, a research audience, and got feedback. And they found the interesting thing is that they found that the audience pretty wholeheartedly found that as individual writers, each individual writer did improve their writing a little bit by using AI. But when they looked at the generic AI written books, they thought they were boring, they were all the same, and they found that even with all their faults, the imaginative traditional writers wrote more interesting things. So it's interesting. It was a better tool for a traditional writer, but it wasn't good for the books that were created through writing.
I'll see if I can find the link, and if so, viewers, I will put that in the show notes for that BBC study there.
Yeah,
Um, we're going to wrap up here pretty quick, unfortunately, but I wanted to thank you so much for being on the show, and I hope you'll come back again soon and let us talk some more with the hippy dippy guru. That was
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
I always ask my guests one final question.
Uh-huh.
If there was one thing that you wish people knew about animation or about the books from Tony White, what would it be?
I think the thing that surprises the thing, and I was in the closet on this for a long, long while in my career, is that very early in my life, I had amazing experiences. My mother's life was saved when doctors had given up by an Irish herbalist astrologer. And it sounds wacky, and I totally accept if people think this is out there. But that man saved my mother's life, and he did a thing that blew my mind. She went in to see him and started to tell her symptoms to him. He said, don't tell me your symptoms. Tell me when you were born. She didn't know why, but she did. And that man then told her her whole medical history from the age of 19 all the way through to the present day and said, I will cure you in 18 months if you do what I say. And to cut a long, long story short, it's all in my book, Astrological Me, my other memoir. Um, and to cut a long story short, he said 18 months, 18 months to the day after she saw him, she went out and got a job at the age of 56 for the first time in 20 years. It
Wow.
was miraculous. And I was a track and field athlete at the time. I'd had a terrible childhood. He helped me with those issues that I had. and got me to training as a track and field athlete. And I had a major injury, and I went to the best Olympic British sports people to 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 try and get it fixed, and they couldn't fix it. I had everything, and he fixed it in 10 days with his herbs and his treatment and everything. And that opened my mind to something he did that I don't see anyone else doing. And I actually studied with him for a few years between patients, and he taught me how to do what his kind of astrology, which was a much different, it was to do with medical and diagnosis and self-understanding, not prediction, not fortune telling, not all the other rubbish that's out there right now. Um, and I found that's guided my life all the way through. In 30 minutes, he explained me to me, and all the lights came on, and I transformed my life from that moment on. And that is the thing that most people don't know about me, but I'm putting it into a new crowdfunding project right now. But it's a fantasy story, it's a fun story, but it's inspired by some of that knowledge that I practiced all through my life.
Is that on Kickstarter? Can they go and find
No,
that
it's on
out
a
there?
thing called Seed and Spark, and it's called the Book of 12. And the premise of the book, and it is a fantasy, it's a story, but imagine if all these stories that we live many lives, reincarnation, we live many lives, if that was all true, and if the energies that astrology talks about are true, and I'm saying if, imagine what a story would be like if an old soul who's lived many lifetimes wrote a journal or a memoir of all their previous lives and explained the stories, the experiences, and the lessons they learned on that long series of journeys. And
Wow.
that's what the Book of 12 is all about. Eventually I want to make an animated film about it, but there's no way to raise money at the moment for that kind of thing. So I'm I've got a crowdfunder to do a graphic novel of the whole thing. So I'll write it as if it's a movie, and I'll draw it as if it's a movie and test it in the marketplace as you would a movie, but it just won't have the movement in it. That will come later if it
And
proves itself.
and for those who don't know what that a crowdsourced project is, what is that?
Basically, it's community funding. It's you go onto a site. This one is seedandspark.com, and you look at the projects, and they're all young filmmakers trying to do things and trying to, I'm the old one, but they claim me young. And if you like their project, you can pledge money to it to help them make it. And for in reward of whatever pledge level, there's several levels of pledging, whatever they set up, and you get rewards. And with
Autograph
mine,
copy or something?
a part of it, but it depends on what their subject matter is and what they think is valuable to the person who's interested in their project.
Dinner with Tony White.
Um,
Why not?
Maybe, I don't know. If they're at the other side of the world, that might be hard to arrange. But certainly, I've got some goodies in there. Um, like nobody's ever done this in the world, but I could give you your animated horoscope just based on your birthday.
Oh,
And
wow.
and it's not going to tell you your fortune, your future, or anything, but it will talk about personality traits and things that uh, potentials that you might have using what you have going for you, and maybe some of the stumbling blocks of what you might tend to do, as we all do. None of us are perfect. We all have things that hold us back, and we all have opportunities that if we push them, we can take it forward. And that to me is what it's all about: self-understanding and better life management. And I found that true. And that's not what the Book of 12 is about. The Book of 12 is just a fun fantasy mystical hero's journey, if you like.
Now,
Uh,
how long have you lived here in the States?
since 1998, 26 years now.
Okay. But it must give you a unique perspective having grown up in the UK and then now 20 years here.
Yeah.
Um, sorry, kind of sorry that you had to see all this here the last dozen or so years uh,
Right.
with what happened yesterday. And we've lost the art of conversation in this country.
Yeah, just human touch. We've lost the art of human touch, and we've lost the connection to nature and the earth and the planet. And if we could just rebuild that and accept each other's diversity and difference, and if we could just accept that, the world would change overnight if enough people did it. And it's, the thousand monkey theory. You get enough monkeys doing it, and they'll write Shakespeare or whatever,
Well,
whatever the theory is.
Tony White, will you come back and see us again?
I will be delighted. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming by. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
Take
Thanks
care.
for inviting me. Take care. Bye.
Boy, that was a great interview with Tony White. Very interesting stuff. We'll have him back on the show again. Well, it's time again now for our top 10 book list for fiction and nonfiction. Let's take a look. Well, and not to be outdone, how about our friends over there in Music Land? Tom's top 10 music for this week. These are adult contemporary titles from the Billboard Hot 100. Let's take a look. Let's take a listen. I hesitated to talk to you about this, but it's been weighing heavy on my heart. I never heard of such a thing called ghosting. You ever heard of that? Somebody I deeply care about and have been a big supporter of has basically chosen to ghost me. I think that's just infantile. I really do. Especially when you profess to be my friend, and now you've just ghosted me and you won't even talk about stuff. It's just way beneath you, and I'm really surprised. And I've been a big, huge supporter over the past 5 years. I was the one that brought you to the folks at Author Nation and said they must have you as a presenter and as a host. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. You know who I'm talking about. Anybody who knows me and has followed along on the podcast. But ghosting is not mature. It's not professional, and it's uncalled for. If you don't have the wherewithal to stick up for your beliefs and defend your beliefs and what you think, then what are you doing? I mean, what kind of person are you? So you may have a lot of people fooled, but yeah. And I'll be at Author Nation. So I hope that there's not going to be a problem. At any rate, hey, I want to thank you again for tuning in this week, your weekly digest of what's happening in books and music from a reader perspective. You join us next week. We got some more great guests for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Tom McAuliffe, you make it a great day.